Friends, thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of this 2020-24 HESED. We are so happy and so glad that you were able to join us in this historic event. Now we are in the closing worship, so I invite you to turn to your hymnal that it's in your chairs. It's going to be Santo, 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 268, Camina Pueblo de Dios, and Eric would lead us in that song, and then we will read the next page over in 269 in the Psalm 119. Join me in the reading of the Psalm 119, found next to this hymn that we just sang in 269. ¿Cómo puede el joven llevar una vida íntegra, viviendo conforme a tu palabra? Yo te busco con todo el corazón, no dejes que me desvíe de tus mandamientos. En mi corazón atesoro tus dichos, para no pecar contra ti. Enséñame, Señor, a seguir tus decretos, y los cumpliré hasta el fin. Dame entendimiento para seguir tu ley, y la cumpliré de todo corazón. Dirígeme para la senda de tus mandamientos, porque en ella encuentro mi solaz. Tú, Señor, tratas bien a tu siervo, conforme a tu palabra. Impárteme conocimiento y buen juicio, pues yo creo en tus mandamientos. Antes de sufrir anduve descarriado, pero ahora obedezco tu palabra. Tu palabra es una lámpara a mis pies, es una luz a mi sendero. Guía mis pasos conforme a tu promesa. No dejes que me domine la iniquidad. Amén.
A reading from John chapter 5, verses 2 through 9. Now there is in Jerusalem, near the sheep gate, a pool which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, the paralyzed, one who had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there, and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" "Sir," the invalid replied, "I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." Then Jesus said to him, "Get up, pick up your mat and walk." At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked. The day on which this took place was a Sabbath. Okay. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Color splashing in the margins. It's my sermon for today. This weekend has been about promoting awareness and sharing our collective involvement in the area of. We have been able to see how HESED, which is Hebrew for love in action, is taking place all around us. And I am thankful to be here with you, witnessing this amazing work, and to share with you a little bit of my story. I have named my sermon, Color Splashing in the Margins, because it is in the margins where I have lived, a border of its own, a frontera of hope and possibilities. The scriptures from the Gospel of John 5:3-8 tells the story of a man in need of healing, with the possibilities of healing right in front of him. My background is in the frontera of Brownsville and Matamoros, Mexico. I was raised in an extreme conservative church, which is not shocking in the South or in our Latinidad. Many of us have shared such experiences. Then came seminary. And like a bulldozer, it made way for the Holy Spirit to blow the doors open in my mind to new possibilities. And with that grounding came the invitation to ask questions. Santo Dios. To think, to come at the stories from different angles and different perspectives. So today I want to invite you to step into the margins of this story into different perspectives by looking through a lens that focuses on three angles: the one in need, the one who offers help, and the bystander. Inviting you to reflect on where you may have stood at one time or another. So we start by taking a seat next to the man in the narrative who requires healing. Now, different scriptures, different translations say this man was ill, invalid, sick, living with some form of disability. In this case, this man has been lying on the ground in need of help for 38 years. Regardless of the situation, I have many questions. Like, how did he get there? Did someone drop him off and then left him there for 38 years? Has he been stuck there the whole time? Or does he somehow commute to the pool every day? Perhaps crawling back and forward for some other place for shelter? This story reminds me of a time where I too was in need of help, of hope, of a miracle, of a friendly smile, someone to help me off the ground. I moved to the Dallas area to attend Dallas Art Institute. I packed my bags, threw my art supplies in a box, rolled up a huge canvas, packed it all on the Expresso bus with a one-way ticket to Dallas. There in that bus, with that small mounted TVs playing La India Maria, I knew my life was going to be well. Waiting in Dallas were two friends who were artists from Iowa. These two were the only white people I have ever interacted in the frontera. True story. Besides people that would come to spring break at Sao Padre Island, make a mess, and leave the island. Spring break. But these two had stayed there to draw caricatures, and that's how I met them. They taught me to draw. That's how I got to know them a little better. And so then they invited me to move to Dallas with them. 2 years after that invitation, I decided to go. My friends gave me a job drawing caricatures. They gave me a home. They helped me get into the Art Institute of Dallas. Even when some folks there were not too friendly, they used their privilege and their influence to make a way for me to attend, and I'm forever grateful for them. This is a repetitive thing in my life. That is how I ended up in seminary, and that's where I am now. Through my life, I have been fortunate to encounter individuals who recognize my capabilities and support me. I have explored many career paths. experiencing various ups and downs. I have dabbled almost in every field imaginable. But one thing in my community, mi gente, is that we understand the art of survival and making the most out of whatever resources we have. How many are familiar with the feeling of being stuck in one place? And yet, how many are familiar with perseverance? I don't know how. I don't know where, but I'm gonna make it. For the longest time, I felt like a papalote, a kite. I was all over the place, feeling the unrest of careers that kept bringing me back to my calling. Through all of these careers, all of these different paths that I have taken, turns out they were useful to start a nonprofit. Who would have known? Now, this man in the story laid on the ground at Bethesda in Jerusalem, right? The pool of water. The waters were stirred, people entered, and healing happened. Some traditions say that the water was stirred by angels. So this was a well-known place for liberation, for miracles to happen, for transformation. Such place I experienced in seminary while walking alongside my spiritual director, or my spiritual companion as she likes to call herself, because she invited me to discern what brought joy to my heart. And I realized that regardless of what job or career I was in, I always ended up with young people. I always ended up volunteering with them, either at a youth center or as a youth pastor. 20 plus years of walking alongside young people brings me such joy. Then through a discernment period, I decided to enter the Art of Spiritual Direction, a residency program in Steel Point in New Mexico at Ghost Ranch. 2 years flew by and I became a certified spiritual director. I joined Spiritual Directors International. In the middle of that program, I had the crazy idea of creating a queer camp for LGBTQ plus youth and their ally friends. Then that camp idea grew and became a nonprofit that it is today. My calling never changed. Oh, but how I questioned the Spirit. How I question past tense, question now, how I question the Spirit. I have nothing. I'm sitting in the margins right along my BIPOC friends. Some are still trying to get to the water. Ada Maria Isasi Diaz says that the struggle for liberation is the struggle to be self-determining. Certainly, something that we can all identify with is la lucha, the struggle. So I will luchar and do what I can with the color I have. If there's something that we can identify with, is that the struggles are real. All of us, at one time or another, have known of someone who has been ill, regardless of culture. As a Hispanic, as a Latina individual, there is always a family member that knows of someone who knows of someone who knows the trick to make it better. We eat and we drink all kinds of things, from herbs to animal parts, from soups to unsavory liquids that are said to have healing qualities. We consult the stars. Growing up in my worldly primas around me, they didn't go to church. They were always talking about Walter Mercado. I don't know if you know Walter. A Puerto Rican astrologer who believed held the answers to everyday questions. May Señor Walter rest in peace. He's passed away. We may look for a healer, not a witch doctor, or maybe, but a person with magical hands, or a limpia, una buena limpia, a cleansing to chase away the evil spirits, the search for liberation for what ails us by all means necessary. If I am told to drink this water, I'm going to ask for a gallon. If I am told that this pool of water is a place of healing for those who enter, then I'm going to die trying. And yet this man was waiting for 38 years, lying at this place of hope, waiting for his chance to get in, and he just never made it into the water. Someone else always rushes and cuts in front of him. Jesus asked him, do you want to get well? Is this something that interests you? I wonder if this man kept looking at him like, really? Was Jesus asking for his consent so they can move him into the water? I mean, there was 12 of them. Okay. Or was the man by the pool just cynical after so many years of things sitting there and trying? Who is this guy? What does it mean if I want to get well? Hello? Is he suggesting that I have not been trying all these years? Because sadly, I have heard people argue that the poor are lazy. They should just get a job. The immigrants are freeloaders. Transgender people are called deceitful liars. And the stigma for people with less visible disabilities is similar to those with more visible disabilities. For those of us with more access to resources, it can be hard to even imagine obstacles that can arise, preventing many kinds of freedoms that we often take for granted. Not everyone has the ability to climb stairs. Not everyone has the ability or has the friends to carry us when we are weak. And what about those immigrants? Do you know how long it takes for the lottery number to come your way? The attorney to take your case after you can finally afford it? Oh, and that's hoping the lawyer doesn't take your money and leaves. Or how about the long-awaited letter that finally says you have an appointment with a government official? And then you forget a document and you gotta wait again. It may seem if you have to wait forever to get a permit, to work or to study, or to have your resident alien status recognized, then they call you alien. And what about the transgender community who have known what it means to wait for hope, for liberation and a day of transformation? Call to make an appointment at a clinic only to discover it will be months before one becomes available, because not many clinics are affordable. So there's a waiting line. There's a waiting line just to be seen, just to be put on the line. Many wait for a mental health worker to provide a letter validating what they have known forever to be true. Some might have saved money for a gender marker or name change, but then they have to choose between using that money to move forward or escaping an unhealthy situation. Sometimes it's just simply too hard to make rent and have groceries while living on poverty wages, working in survival economics. So there's no wiggle room to even save in the first place. It takes a certain amount of social economic stability to be able to have resources in the first place. Or have people simply become comfortable stepping over and around these situations? I wonder if the people around the pool became comfortable stepping around this man. Did they avoid making contact? Did they avoid making eye contact? Over 38 years, have they stopped even seeing him at all? I have tried, he responded to Jesus' question. I have tried, but someone always steps down ahead of me. I have no one to put me into the pool. What a life. When you have made it so far, and yet you can't just a little more, you can't quite make it. Healing was within sight, but still too far to reach. It can be discouraging. But in this story, we see a dynamic that repeats itself over and over, even today. Someone's always stepping in front of the most vulnerable. The fastest, the strongest, the best connected are the ones who are able to get ahead, to be recognized, and to be made well. But it's not for lack of trying. Here's what I do know about the margins. Whatever has been accomplished can be shared. We know that in the margins, a smile goes a long way. We know how to divide and multiply what little frijoles or tortillas we have. We make it work. When I see the younger persons that I walk alongside them, I see myself. I see my story. I see the people who helped me to the water, and I realize that I can do the same. When it comes to the margins, we must add color as we keep searching for wholeness, because despair is not an option. As legislation and political yo-yos go up and down, trying to tell a parent not to affirm their child, to provide life-saving hormones, therapy, or they will be charged with child abuse and neglect, we stand by them. We splash color to the margins. We don't wait for legislation or state senators or any political or religious person to tell us what we should do. We know what's right. We stand by them. We do more than thoughts and prayers. We say their name. We say their name. Next Benedict, we say their name. We create safe and brave spaces through summer camps, through camping trips, through weekend events, through partnering with churches to support our work. While state-funded schools have to remove all pride things, affirming seminaries like these are spaces of color that make every day brighter. While organizations and people such as the ones we met this weekend and heard about, how they get the word out that we can do things together, brings us hope. We don't wait, we make a way. And this man's story did not end with despair, and neither does mine. The man in the story finds healing without ever making it into the pool. Jesus does not carry him into the pool. He does not push people. He does not, do superpowers. Instead, Jesus meets the man right where he is and delivers hope and healing, no steering required. Jesus makes us whole by becoming our living water. We don't have to worry if we can afford it. We don't have to worry whether anyone thinks if we are worthy. We don't have to worry whether someone is going to cut in line and take your blessing. It's yours. Jesus made forgiveness, grace, and love accessible to all. He provides a path to liberation while still giving an option. He did not have the magic wand with him when he brought healing to this man. Instead, he told them, stand up, take your mat, walk. But it was only then that the man was healed. We have to be willing to receive, not mind over matter kind of thing, more of like the courage to know that the world treats us the way they do, but we can still get up. Rather, courage is a very real part of liberation. The courage to believe, to hope, and to act when our time draws near. Maybe even after years of struggles and disappointments. Maybe you finally saw color around you. The man could have easily laughed at Jesus and said, are you kidding? Like I've been this 38 years. But he says, stand up. Why? Even when you try and you have fallen so many times, stand up. This man had the courage to try again, even after so many years of defeat and disappointment and falling. And I'm so thankful that someone came and asked me if I needed help to get up. Like the man in the story, I say, yes, but I have no one. Yet that moment of invitation opened new possibilities. It turned out that there were other people willing to help me engage in my own liberation. There were other people helping me with resources. There were other people who were really ready and to consider. What about the other characters in the story? For 38 years, there were spectators in this public place. Crowds who stood by watching them, crawling, climbing, falling, getting pushed around. I have no one, he says, alone in this very crowded public place. Does that sound familiar? Experiencing a kind of isolation entirely on your own, even with people around. Family members that don't understand. Have you ever seen others look away in your time of need, refusing to make eye contact? Have you ever felt like a burden? Like you were getting in the way of something? Perhaps those in the margins need a little bit more time before they believe you. Because sometimes it takes seeing the work, as we did this weekend. It takes hearing the testimonials around us, the color splashing of the waters, to know that a person is real. Because you and I also know what it feels like to be used as tokens. Have you been affirmed but only with money at hand? Or affirmed in words, but there's no type of community organizing that creates real change? Have you ever been asked what you need? Or have you ever yourself reached out to someone in struggles and despair? Have you ever had the opportunity to invite someone to their own healing and standing by them? Standing by them, maybe shoulder to shoulder, helping them regain their strength as they regain that balance after 38 years? We might not have much, but we can sit, and we can stand, and we can be there for each other. It took years of therapy for me to regain my confidence. And it took work with my spiritual director. And it took finding a community of faith I felt comfortable in. Then I began working with a pastor who allowed me to serve with loving support and encouragement. We did street ministry. Well, the stories I can tell you about where we've been. But even after those years in ministry, it still took Dean Jaretta Marshall, former dean from Bright Divinity School, to come to me and say, I see you. You should go to seminary. I believe in you. You can do it. You're smart. And that's how I moved forward into my education. Most of us have been the passerby at one time or another. And many of us perhaps have been overwhelmed by the needs of others, the transgender community, the immigrants, the undocumented, the mentally ill, the homeless. I mean, the list can go on, and you just don't know where to go. Because we live in a fast-paced world where if you're not careful, you yourself will get ran over. You will get pushed aside because someone's going to get what they believe is theirs. It can be daunting, scary, unfair. But in such a world, we need you. We need you. We need the healers, the artists, the musicians, the activists, the poets, the writers. We need the educators, the pastors, the friends who will look into people's eyes, who will not walk around them and step around them, but actually invite them into transformation. We need prophets, bystanders, who would challenge the status quo and lend a helping hand. You and I know what it is to be stuck. You and I know what it is to need healing. You and I know what it is to be unworthy. Remember that. And let it fuel your passion as you create spaces for other people, not just the privileged few. Austin Seminary. Dean, you are creating change. You are creating change, and we are seeing HESED all around these spaces and beyond. So today I invite you to create spaces, to continue to create spaces in the most transformative ways, outside the box thinking. Today I am a pastor at First UCC in Second Life, and I work with younglings in Color Splash Out. But First UCC and Second Life is found online, on Second Life. We are a community of furries and unicorns and little avatars and poets, dancers, students, lovers of life. And I also continue connected to my Latinidad with the Hispanic Summer Program, if you heard about them. I am the artist behind all of the art from HSP that you might have seen on social media or promotional material. And if you come to the 35th anniversary, just saying, you would definitely see some new art that's coming around. But beyond all of this, my friends, I reclaim my narrative and use what I have learned and what I continue to do in these margins, creating spaces for people to find their voice, building community, splashing color in dualistic spaces. Because friends, relationship matters. And in the margins, they are life-giving. So, if you want to join a movement there are plenty of people around you, guests like me and the wonderful speakers that you have met today. They would love to hear from you. Not to mention the work being done here at Austin Seminary. We are in the business of coloring the margins, of breaking the mold, and making way for the river of living water to flow. So, let us continue celebrating all the shades of the spectrum and each other. And let us continue splashing color, waving pride flags, creating, stirring, moving, becoming, annoying. And in the words of El Profeta Amos, may justice flow like a river and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Ashe. Amen.
Friends, won't you bow your heads and pray with me? Gracious Creator, thank you for bringing us all together. Thank you for a very successful HESED 2024. Thank you for new friends, new perspectives, and thank you for all the love that you give each and every one of us in our hearts. May we all remember to honor one of your greatest commandments, which is to love thy neighbor as thyself, as we continue to do the work of justice and do it in kindness with your mercy. Father, keep us safe as we leave and go in our directions until we meet again. Amen.
Friends, our last hymn is 721. Song for song for song, 721.
Let us go forth from this place to find a self you can live with, a cause you can live into, and a Redeemer whose love you can always carry with you. Go in peace.
Friends, thank you for having joined us for this 2024 HESED. Yeah, thanks to all the volunteers and to all the attendees. We hope to see you next year. On your way out, there are two things that piece of plywood that have the words HESED on them in Hebrew and English. If you would like to write a word or a sentence or a phrase or a place that means HESED to you and that reminds you of your story, you are more than welcome to do that. So we encourage you to share it with us in that way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome.